Welcome back to Ancient Asian Legends. I'm your host, Mei Li Soon. Previously on Ancient Asian Legends, after Emperor Taizong's health declined due to ghostly encounters following the Dragon King's execution, Wei Zheng's mysterious letter to the Underworld judge became the last hope to resurrect the emperor from death. Without further ado, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 21. Touring the Underworld. Emperor Taizong's soul drifted out of the palace tower. His soul watched as the imperial guard requested that the emperor go hunting. Taizong happily agreed, and his soul departed along with the guards. However, after traveling for some time, the rest of his hunting party vanished. Taizong found himself alone, wandering through the wilderness. He was alarmed and unable to find his way. Suddenly, Emperor Taizong heard someone calling loudly from one side.
"Emperor of the Great Tang, come this way, come this way."
Upon hearing this, Taizong looked up and saw a man wearing a black official's hat on his head and a rhinoceros horn belt around his waist. He wore a gauze robe concealing lucky light. On his feet were a pair of powder-bottom boots for ascending clouds and treading mist. In his bosom he carried a book of life and death, determining existence and demise. His hair was disheveled around his ears. His beard flew wildly around his cheeks. In the past, he had been an imperial minister. But now, this man served as a judge attending the king of hell. Taizong approached and saw the official kneeling by the roadside, saying,
"Your Majesty, please forgive this subject for failing to welcome you from afar."
"Who are you? Why have you come to greet me?"
"Half a month ago I, your humble servant, witnessed the Dragon King complaining about your Majesty promising to save him, but then executing him instead. The king of the first court of the Underworld, Qin Guang, immediately sent ghost messengers to summon your Majesty for a hearing before the three courts. So, I came here to welcome you. I did not expect to arrive late today. Please forgive me."
"What in the world, what is your name? What is your official position?"
"When I was alive, I served in your Majesty's court as a prefect, and later a vice minister. My surname is Sui, given name Jui. Now in the Netherworld, I serve as the judge of Fengdu."
Taizong was greatly pleased and approached, hurriedly extending his royal hand to help the official to his feet, saying,
"Sir, you've come from afar. Wei Zheng, who serves in my court, has a letter addressed to you. How fortunate that we've met."
The judge thanked him and asked where the letter was. Taizong took it out from his sleeve and handed it to him. Suizhuo received it with a bow and opened it to read. The letter said,
"Your humble brother Wei Zheng bows and writes to the esteemed Elder Tsui, judge of the great capital of the Underworld. I recall our past friendship, and I remember your voice and appearance as if you are still here with me on Earth. Several years have passed, and I've not heard your wise teachings. I've only been setting out vegetarian offerings during festivals to pay my respects to you without ever knowing if you've enjoyed them. I'm grateful that you haven't forgotten me and that you appeared in my dream to inform me of your promotion. Alas, we're separated by the realms of yin and yang, worlds apart, unable to meet face to face. Now, as our Emperor Taizong has suddenly passed away, I expect he will have a hearing before the three courts and will surely meet with you. I humbly beg you to remember our friendship from our living days and show some leniency, allowing His Majesty to return to the world of the living. This would be a great kindness. I will properly express my gratitude later. There's much more to say, but I'll stop here."
After reading the letter, the Underworld judge was overjoyed and said,
"The other day, when Wei Zheng dreamed of beheading the old dragon, I already knew about it and couldn't praise him enough. I'm also grateful that he looks after my descendants morning and evening. Now that he has sent this letter, your Majesty can rest assured. I will personally escort your Majesty back to the world of the living to once again ascend the Jade Throne."
Taizong expressed his gratitude. As the two were talking, they suddenly saw a pair of young attendants in blue, calling out loudly,
"The King of Hell summons you."
Emperor Taizong felt as if he had no choice, so he followed the judge and the two attendants to meet the King of Hell. At the end of their journey, they saw a city. Above the city gate hung a large plaque with 7 large golden characters that read, "Ghost Gate of the Netherworld, Land of Darkness." The blue-clothed attendants waved their banners, leading Taizong directly into the city and along the street. On the side of the street, Emperor Taizong saw his father Li Yuan, his elder brother Jiancheng, and his younger brother Yuanji. His family called out,
"Shimin has come, Shimin has come."
Then the emperor's brothers, Jiancheng and Yuanji, came to grab and beat Taizong, demanding retribution for his earthly sins. Taizong couldn't dodge in time and was seized by them. Fortunately, Judge Cui summoned a blue-faced, fang-toothed ghost guard who drove away Jiancheng and Yuanji, allowing Taizong to escape and continue on his journey. Eventually, the emperor came upon a magnificent palace with blue tiles. The palace was made of layers upon layers of colorful clouds piled high, with thousands of strands of red mist faintly visible. Grotesque beast heads jutted from the eaves, and glazed tiles in the pattern of mandarin ducks covered the roof. On the left side of the palace, fierce ox-headed demons were arrayed, and on the right side, horse-faced spirits stood in rows. Golden tablets turned to receive the dead and send away ghosts, and white banners were hung to guide souls and summon spirits. The palace was called the General Assembly Hall of the Netherworld, and below it was King Yama's Forest of Misery Hall. Taizong was observing the hall from outside when he heard the tinkling of jade pendants and smelled an extraordinary fragrance. 2 pairs of torchbearers led the way, followed by the 10 kings of hell. The 10 kings came out of the precious hall of misery and bowed to welcome Taizong. Taizong humbly declined to go first. The 10 kings said,
"Your Majesty is the ruler of the living world. We are the kings of the netherworld. This is as it should be. Why be so modest?"
I have offended you. How could I dare discuss the ways of the living and dead, or humans and ghosts?
After much back and forth between the kings, Taizong finally agreed to enter the Hall of Misery. After exchanging courtesies with the 10 kings, Taizong sat down with his ghostly hosts. After a short while, one of the underworld kings, King Qingguang, stepped forward with clasped hands and said,
"The Dragon King complained to us that you, Your Majesty, promised to save him but instead killed him. Why would you do such a thing?"
I indeed dreamed of an old dragon begging for help, and I truly promised him no harm. I didn't expect him to commit a crime deserving execution, to be beheaded by my official Wei Zheng. I had summoned Wei Zheng to play chess in the palace, not knowing that when he fell asleep, he beheaded the dragon while dreaming. This is a case of the human official acting with supernatural power, and the Dragon King committing a crime deserving death. How is it my fault?
Hearing this, the 10 kings bowed and said,
"Even before that dragon was born, it had already been recorded in the Book of Death that the dragon was destined to be killed by a human official. We knew this long ago. It's just that he argued before us here in the Underworld, and insisted that Your Majesty come for a hearing before the 3 courts. We have already sent him to be reincarnated through the Wheel of Rebirth. Now that Your Majesty has descended here, we beg your forgiveness for our hasty summons."
After speaking, they barked an order to the judge in charge of the Book of Life and Death.
"Quickly fetch the book and see how many years of earthly life and heavenly blessings Your Majesty is entitled to."
Judge Cui hurriedly went to the archives and first checked the general register of the kings of all nations under heaven. He saw that the Emperor Taizong of the Great Tang Dynasty was destined to reign for 13 years. Judge Cui was shocked. Thinking quickly, he took a thick brush with black ink and hastily added 2 strokes to the character 1 before presenting the book. The 10 kings saw in the book that, under Taizong's name, it was recorded that he would reign for 33 years. Judge Cui's deception had worked. Underworld King Yama asked Emperor Taizong in surprise,
"How many years has Your Majesty been on the throne?"
I have reigned on the throne for 13 years now.
Your Majesty can rest easy. You still have 20 years of life in the mortal world. This visit has already clarified the case of the Dragon King. Please return to the world of the living.
Hearing this, Taizong bowed in gratitude. The 10 kings appointed Judge Cui and Grand Marshal Zhu to escort Taizong back to life on Earth. As Taizong left the Hall of Misery, he raised his hands and asked the 10 kings,
How are the old and young in my palace faring?
All is well, but we fear your royal sister may not live long.
Taizong bowed again in gratitude and said,
When I return to the world of the living, I have nothing to repay you with except melons and fruits.
We have plenty of eastern melons and western melons here. We only lack southern melons.
Well then, I will send you all southern melons as soon as I return.
With that, the rulers, living and dead, bade farewell. What will happen as Taizong returns to the human realm? Will he come back to life? Tune in next week on Ancient Asian Legends to find out. Today's episode, based on Wu Cheng-en's 1592 classic Journey to the West, was adapted and edited by Matthew Borer, featuring original music by Studio Colomna. Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, or YouTube by searching Ancient Asian Legends for highlights of each episode. Find out what happens to Taizong as he returns to the human realm and the new challenges he faces as the emperor of one of the greatest dynasties in Chinese history. Until then, take care and stay enchanted.